On today's show, it's the season review, an outlook for even Miroshnichenko, and Dylan Strome embraces his potential new role with the Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called the Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the breakout season for Ivan Miroshnichenko. He had a great season for the Capitals and was huge for the Hershey Bears in winning another Calder Cup. What is the outlook and what did we learn about Miro this last season? We'll talk about that a little bit later. We will talk about Dylan Strome and his potential new role with the Capitals and working with some familiar faces. We'll talk about that. And then in the last segment, we will talk about how Alex Ovechkin is the emoji man. But just to get it going here, talking about Ivan Miroshnichenko, a guy that has had to come over great adversity. He is a guy that had the Hodgkin's lymphoma that went into remission. He lost a lot of weight. He had to hit the gym, put on all the weight, terminate his KHL contract, find a way into the Hershey Bears, and then even cracking the Washington Capitals roster. So from going to being in a really poor place personally and professionally and going all the way to the NHL in a short span of time speaks volumes about the character that Ivan Miroshnichenko has, what kind of player he is, and ultimately how the Capitals are really lucky to have him within the organization. He is a guy that popped off the page for the Hershey Bears. He is a guy that showed steps of growth in the NHL. And I think that, it's all about what kind of camp Miro has this fall. I think that if he has the same skill set that he had for the Hershey Bears and towards the end of the season for the Capitals, if he can continue to in that growth trajectory, I think he could very well crack the roster on the opening night for the Capitals, the big team. But talking about what kind of season that he had and what we can expect from Ivan Miroshnichenko. So let's kind of take a look back on Miro. Miroshnichenko, age 20, was drafted by the Capitals in the first round, 20th overall of the 2022 NHL draft, standing at 6'1" and weighing 195 pounds. This right-handed player hails from Russia, where he honed his skills and attracted attention from both the KHL and NHL scouts. And one of the things that Ross Mahoney did and his crew is they were able to see past the Hodgkin's lymphoma and the fact that that it can be a devastating thing to deal with. But they were able to check out his medical reports and everything showed that it was in remission and that he was going to be able to be full go. I think that Miro would have gone higher in the draft, of course, if he didn't have the Hodgkin's lymphoma. But good on Ross Mahoney and his crew for being able to see through that. And I think the Capitals got lucky in a lot of ways by being able to select him. Following the mutual termination of his contract with the Avant-Garde Hockey Club and Miroshnichenko on May 1st, 2023, Miro embarked on his hockey career in North America. Shortly thereafter, the Capitals announced his signing to a 3-year entry-level contract, with Miro set to earn $855,000 in the NHL and $82,500 in the AHL. And some people pointed to the fact that he got off to a slow start. And it was my belief last summer that Miro should really crack the opening night roster. But I think that he still needed to get acclimated to the North American game. So when he was first on the Capitals, I think he was a bit rusty. When he was playing with the Hershey Bears, you could see that he was still getting used to the North American game. But by the end of the season, quite a player. Talking about his early career and his medical challenge. Miro began his hockey career before joining the avant-garde system at the age of 18. He played for Omsky Yastreby in the MHL in 2021 and joined the VHL team for the 21-22 season. Notably, Miro served as the captain of Team Russia, leading them to gold medal in the 2021 Hilka Gretzky Cup. So leadership by the young man, and still a young man, that is what we like about him. So talking about his concerns and the concerns surrounding his medical condition. In February 2022, Miro was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Following specialized treatment, including medical care in Germany, he received clearance for medical professionals to resume skating in workouts in June of 2022. This is the guy that Ross Mahoney said they went to visit him, and he had lost so much weight that his jeans were just hanging off of his hips. And it wasn't looking great for him. To see him go from that to being an NHL player, that took drive, that took motivation, and that is intrinsically the kind of man that even Miroshnichenko is. Last summer, there was all of the footage of him doing squats, lifting in the gym, putting the work in, being driven, knowing that he had set his sights on greater things, not to diminish Russian hockey, but he had his eyes set for bigger and better things, playing North American hockey. And talking about his return to hockey, upon learning about Miro's health status, Capitals assistant GM Ross Mahoney expressed confidence in the player's condition. After a video conference call in May, Mahoney observed a positive change in Miro's health and commended his resilience and mental strength throughout his challenging journey. And part of it is the mental. You have to be a good physical player, but being strong mentally. And being strong mentally with a person without any health conditions is sometimes difficult, but he was facing pretty great, tough odds with his health conditions that, luckily for him, that all turned around. It went into remission, but that speaks volumes of his mental toughness. Following medical clearance, Miro resumed skating and training in June of 2022, but was not yet permitted to compete in the KHL. Mahoney mentioned during the Capitals Media Day in September of 2022 that Miro returned to competitive hockey was pending league clearance, despite receiving approval from medical professionals to engage in physical activities. And some people don't know that. It's not about the coaches. It's not about even sometimes the training staff on the team. They have to get medical clearance by doctors in order to resume play. So sometimes when we see injuries for players, not even Miro, but we're like, he can play. Just go out there and play hockey. It's not like that. Oftentimes the player wants to go ahead and play. They're hungry to play, but they need that clearance. And that's the best case scenario, because sometimes players would put themselves at risk just because I can do it. I'm okay. This back issue, this knee issue, it's okay. I'm a tough guy. I can do it. I think it's really good that there are guards put into place, safety measures to protect sometimes players from themselves. Talking about performance and the transition to the North American game. Miro eventually received clearance to resume training with Avant-Garde Omsk's VHL junior team on October 21st, 2022, and was later approved to participate in games starting from November 6, 2022. He rejoined the competition by playing 6 games with Avant-Garde's MHL team, showcasing a notable performance by scoring 6 goals and providing 2 assists. From the 23-24 season, Miro ventured to North America to pursue hockey, predominantly playing with the Hershey Bears, occasionally transitioning between the third and first or second lines. He received a call-up to the Capitals in early December, but returned to the Bears by month end. And there was work in his game. I was ready to believe in Miro that he was going to knock it out of the park, but there was still things that he needed to work on. And taking your time in these things is always important. As fans, sometimes we want to fast track these guys right to the top. playing NHL hockey, but I think it was wise for him to develop his game in the AHL. His tenure with the Bears continued until late February, when he was recalled to join the Capitals, remaining with the team until the elimination from the playoffs. Subsequently, he was loaned to the Bears to support their campaign for a second consecutive Calder Cup championship. So this is where I think he really shined, where he was really starting to get it. Season performance and playoffs during his time with the Bears, he scored 9 goals and made 16 assists in 47 games in the regular season. In the Calder Cup playoffs, he played 20 games, scoring 5 goals and making 5 assists. With the Capitals, he played 21 games, scoring 2 goals and making 4 assists. In the playoffs, he played 1 game but didn't score any points. Combining his time with the Capitals and the Bears for the regular season and the playoffs, he played a total of 89 games this season, which is a career high. This achievement is even more remarkable considering he had recovered from cancer less than 2 years earlier. This guy is a tough guy. This is a guy that is determined. He wasn't able to score in the first 3 games of the first playoff round against Lehigh Valley. However, he made a significant breakthrough by scoring 2 goals in the 4th and series-clinching game on May 11th. His scoring momentum continued into the second round against the Hartford Wolves, where he scored 1 goal in game 1 and 2 goals in game 2, contributing significantly to the team's success. Throughout the Eastern Conference Finals against the Cleveland Monsters, he continued to display his skills with 1 goal and 3 assists, further proving his value to the team. In the Calder Cup Finals against Coachella Valley Firebirds, he maintained his strong performance, scoring a goal in game 2 and recording an assist in game 3. He was firing on all cylinders by the end of the Calder Cup playoffs and subsequent win. That's what I'm excited to see. For the entire Calder Cup playoffs, he played in 20 playoff games, demonstrating consistency and impact by scoring 5 goals and providing 5 assists. So let's talk about looking ahead to the future. Miro aspires to secure a regular position with the Caps for the 24-25 season. While it is likely he will initially begin the season in Hershey, it is anticipated that he will have the opportunity to play in more games for the Capitals than the Bears. That was my assessment. I think he will start with the Bears, but there's always things that are possible. Take a look at Alexi Protas, for example. When he got his start, he came into camp a man on a mission. He wouldn't take no for an answer. I think that Miro, to a certain extent, is that way as well. It'll be interesting to see what he does in camp. I mean, I think that he kind of holds the keys to his own destiny. If he continues on his trajectory of being a man on a mission, willing to prove things, I think he could crack the opening night roster. It's ultimately up to him. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about the potential new role of Dylan Strome and the key additions to this team. Some of them are familiar faces to Dylan Strome. I'll discuss straight ahead. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak for performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Dylan Strome was a guy that popped off the page for the Capitals last season, led the team in goals for a good chunk of the season, well, until Alex Ovechkin found his game after the All-Star break. But Dylan Strome was mega clutch for this team pretty much all season. Dylan Strome's standout performance and off-season expectations, let's dig into it. Dylan Strome delivered a standout performance with the Capitals last season, marking a career high with 67 points, 27 goals, 40 assists, and taking the lead on a team that entered the 2024 postseason with the weakest goal differential, minus 37, of any playoff team in the salary cap era. Many people marveled at it. How did the Capitals even make it to the playoffs with such a negative goal differential? They did it. So to say that last season was a wash, I don't think really tells the full story. Following a first-round sweep by the Rangers, the Washington Capitals management made a substantial effort to revamp and enhance the team's roster during the summer. Strome anticipated to be a key component of the team's offensive lineup once again. Again, we need more. We need to see kind of the same, I guess, from Dylan Strome, as there was no really weakness in his game. If I'm going to paint last season with a broad brush, I'm going to go ahead and say a successful season for Dylan Strome. Save the Capitals to start the season, I'm going to go ahead and say he anticipated to be that huge part, expressed excitement about the arrival of quality reinforcements as the Capitals strive to progress beyond mere postseason qualifications. And what I'm talking about is that I think, when you're a professional athlete, just making it to the playoffs is good. But I think for a player like Strome and a lot of the other Capitals, they saw that the roster last year wasn't good enough. And maybe they know that they could have played a bit more, but I think that they know that they would play better. The team would produce more if they played with better players around them. And well, GM Brian McClellan, former GM, went out and made some huge acquisition. So talking about the offseason, the Capitals recruited Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Mangiapane, Logan Thompson, Jakob Chychrun, Matt Roy, Brandon Duhaime, and Taylor Radish, all set to assume roles on the opening night roster. There's not going to be any give-me's. Just because you're a new player and it seems like you're penciled in here or there, that doesn't mean anything. Strome has some previous connections with several of these new teammates, having been a colleague of Dubois, Chychrun, and Radish in the NHL or with Team Canada. Strome shares a particularly close bond with Chychrun, as both players debuted in the league during the 16-17 season with the Arizona Coyotes. And I think that oftentimes when you come to a new team, it's important to look for familiar faces, whether it is a familiar player or a familiar coach. So I think for Chychrun, I think for Strome, this is going to be a good match. The Capitals, that is. Impact of new additions and team dynamics. While the recent additions serve to rejuvenate the roster and bolster the Capitals' playoff prospects, they also alleviate pressure on the team's captain, Ovi, to carry the offensive load. While with Ovi nearing a historic milestone, just 41 goals shy of tying Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record, Strome served as the primary center for Ovi for a significant portion of the 23-24 season, is hopeful of contributing to this remarkable pursuit. So what are some of the things that we know is that Strome took on a bigger role with Nick Backstrom stepping away from hockey and then later Kuzi stepping away from hockey, that he was that top line center for good chunks of the season with Alex Ovechkin. But what does that mean with the addition of Pierre-Luc Dubois? Many people are pointing to the fact that he is going to be that top line center. So what will that mean for Dylan Strome? Talking about his role in positional adaptability. The addition of Dubois makes it probable that Strome may not commence the season with Ovechkin, but he is well positioned to retain his role as a top six forward. Head coach Spencer Carberry now has the flexibility to better integrate Strome into the team and alleviate some of his responsibilities. I think spreading out that pressure so it's not going all on Ovi, all on Dylan Strome is huge, thereby enhancing his impact as an offensive threat. With 5 natural centers on the Capitals roster at the start of the season, Strome's positional adaptability could prove to be a substantial asset for the team. And, Strome is a pretty mild-mannered guy. I think he's a good competitor, all things considered, but I think that if he is not that top line center, I don't think that's going to be the end of the world for him. And it's good that the Capitals have a mature player that is not only mature, but can back that all up with a great skill set. Dylan Strome is a dynamic player that very well could be that top line center because there are a lot of questions surrounding Pierre-Luc Dubois. It's an easy line to draw that, taking a look at what kind of pedigree and what kind of history PLD has, subtracting the last season with the Kings, all things considered, a really great player. But what kind of Pierre-Luc Dubois are we going to see in the fall? Strome very well might be able to take over the mantle as the top line center. I guess time will only tell. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about Alex Ovechkin, and he's oftentimes not a man of many words when it comes to communicating via text message. Often he resorts to just the emoji. Let's discuss straight ahead. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And listen, guys, life is busy. Don't I know it? Oftentimes I'll tell myself, I'm going to get tickets to this event, that event. I want to go see the Nationals, and I get busy and I forget about it. Well, fear not, as tickets are actually cheaper closer to first pitch. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED. ONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Alex Ovechkin is an interesting character. He is a guy that sometimes is stoic, that kind of stereotypical Russian. Nothing phases me. I'm a tough guy and in front of everything. And oftentimes I've seen him irritated, sometimes jovial. But when it comes to communication, at least during the summer months, and this goes back to Brian McClellan talking about it, we heard Strome talk about it, that he is a guy that is not a man of many words. If you ask him a question about, hey, Ovi, what do you think of the moves made? He's not going to give you a paragraph answer. Oftentimes, he's going to give you a thumbs up, as was the case with GM Brian McClellan. One of the things he spoke about was when he signed Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he made all the movement that took place on July 1st. They asked then GM Brian McClellan, what did Ovi think? Does he weigh in on all of it? And BMAC said, yeah, he got back to me, and they pressed him and said, well, what did he say? He didn't say a whole lot. He just gave me the thumbs up emoji. And it's interesting that I've heard Dylan Strome talk about that as much as well, is that oftentimes he doesn't necessarily give you a big answer. He resorts to a thumbs up or an emoji. I guess this is Alex Ovechkin just trying to stay relevant as he is getting closer and closer to his 40th birthday. I don't want to rush it, 39, but you know what I'm talking about. Alex Ovechkin's communication style during a conversation with TSN's Mark Masters, Capitals teammate Dylan Strome shared that Alex Ovechkin has been using memes and emojis to stay in touch with his teammates over the summer. Strome highlighted Ovechkin's humorous side through their interactions and expressed excitement in supporting Ovi as he approaches his 20th NHL season and nears Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goals record. also known as the Great Chase. So that's the kind of guy that Alex Ovechkin is. He is not a guy of many words. And I don't ultimately know what Alex Ovechkin is up to this summer. I've heard he spent time over in Turkey. And then we saw that interesting photo of him playing volleyball with kind of a pot belly, I guess I'm going to say, not looking his best self. And there were rumblings out there that that was a Photoshop because his wife felt compelled later to show him looking rather fit, shirtless and a pair of shorts, and didn't look anything like the guy that was out of shape. So I guess I don't know ultimately what kind of Alex Ovechkin is going on. Is he putting the work in? Everything that I've heard is he's putting the work on, getting ready for the season. I think that his workout regimen has probably changed quite a bit as he's gotten older. But one of the things that I know for sure is he got off to that slow start last season. And does he care? That's the biggest thing. I think that to a certain extent, when people accomplish a certain amount of things in their life, like, he's right behind Wayne Gretzky as the all-time goals leader. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's accomplished this, that, the other thing. When it's all said and done, he will be revered as one of the best to ever lace up the skates. How much pressure does Alex Ovechkin put on himself to take care of himself, to be ready for the next season? And there's rumblings out there as well as he sees himself, not playing past his current contract. How hungry is he? At his age, does he still have that hunger that he did as a younger man to go out there and to prove to everyone that he's all that? Or does he feel like, he's accomplished all he needs to accomplish? I guess I really don't know, because there's a lot of things that make me wonder with that slow start and then turning it on in the second half of the season, what kind of player he is. But the one thing we know about Alex Ovechkin is he is a guy with a sense of humor, not something that was always real apparent. And I guess that's a good thing for him. So if he's going out there using emojis and he's being jovial and sharing memes with his teammates, I guess that's a good thing. I think that is showing that he is in a good mood. I guess I talk about his condition because as a Capitals fan, as an Alex Ovechkin fan, as he is right back here on my wall here, and you can tell that on YouTube, is that I'm a big Ovi fan, and I want nothing but the best for him. I want him to hit the ground running. I want him to catch Gretzky. It is within in shooting distance, shall we say, to catch Wayne Gretzky. I really think it is, that if he can have a really solid season, I think he's going to be really close to catching Gretzky next season. I'm not going to say that he's going to do anything crazy and surpass it. Not impossible, but improbable. But if he can peck away at that and get, really close, so then the following season, it's just really close, I think that's going to put the Capitals in a good position. And, kind of some of the things that come with that, him scoring a lot of goals, that means that the Capitals will most likely be winning more games. And winning more games means that they're going to be higher in the standings, and higher in the standings, meaning that at the end of the season, if they have a really great season, they're going to make it to the playoffs. They can make a push for the Stanley Cup. Let's get it done. Well, Ovechkin's in a good mood this summer. Let's have that good mood continue going into next season. And I think that will be manifest if the Capitals play some great hockey. And I think what's putting him in a good mood while he's sharing emojis and memes and all that is because there's not necessarily maybe all of that pressure on his shoulders anymore, that they went out and got PLD, Andrew Mangiapane, these kind of players, that there is more options to score goals, that maybe PLD is going to be that center that is going to help take Alex Ovechkin to the next level. So many exciting storylines. I cannot wait for the start of next season to see how all these players gel. Is PLD going to be that top line center? Is Alex Ovechkin going to have great chemistry with him? I will have you guys covered, of course, the entire way here on Locked On Capitals. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's only July, and I can almost see the first puck drop in my mind's eye. I want this summer to just go by really quick, and let's get to the hockey season, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. Oh, but there's more. If you are a fan of other DC sports, there is Locked On Nationals, Commanders, and Wizards. So no matter what major DC sport it is, Locked On has got you covered. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.